Hello YouTube, this is Randy and welcome to Escape for Old School. Today I want to talk to you about my VESC. That stands for Better Electronic Speed Controller. So the VESC need to supply enough current to drive my two motors, which are represented by these two symbols that you see in this diagram. My motors are 6374, which refers to the diameter and the length of the motor, and more importantly, they are 3,250 watts each. That's important because that tells me how much amperage I need to drive my motors when they're demanding the most amount of power. What you want to do here is you want to divide 3,250 by the amount of voltage that your battery is going to be supplying when your battery is at its lowest. So for me, I am running 12S, that's 12 cells in series, which when fully charged supplies 50.4 volts of power. Fully discharged, or it would be down in a range of 40 volts. So if you divide 40 into 3,250, you get a roughly 80 amps. I want my speed controller to comfortably supply me with 80 amps in order to avoid voltage lag. One of the first VESC that I looked at was the VESC Box Unity. At the time I was looking, this was probably the best VESC on the market. It comes with a nice enclosure that you see here. It comes with a starter button, which is nice. You see the power coming out the side and the 6 wires for the two motors. And as I look at the stats for this, it tells me up to 160 amps continuous system current. So that's 160 across both motors. So that's exactly right for my particular setup. You get a nice diagram of how it's constructed. And you see the dimensions here of 113 millimeters by 63 millimeters. So overall, it's a very nice unit. The biggest setback or drawback to this particular selection is obviously the price. 399 pounds, that's over $500 US. That's unbelievable. At the other end of the price spectrum is this BLDS from Inboards. I looked at this just because I got a lot of my equipment from Inboards, and this particular ESC is designed to work with one motor. If I went this direction, I would have had to buy two of these, one for each motor, and then connect them with CAN bus, which is just a connection from one VESC to the other. When we look at the specs on this one, we see that the current it can supply is 50 amps continuous, 240 peak. So that 50 amps continuous is less than what a single motor might require on my build. So some might argue that 50 amps continuous is plenty. I don't really know that for sure. I don't have the experience to know that that would be enough. I decided against this option because I'd rather err on the side of too much power than not enough. This is the next VESC that I considered. This is the VESC 4.2 ESC Pro Switch Plus. This particular VESC is priced at $144 US, which is actually cheaper than buying the two single motor VESC, the other option. So this is actually cheaper than the other one. So it looks like a pretty good deal at $144. We go look at the specs for it. The hardware is version 4.20. Which by my understanding is a version back from the latest. 50 amps continuous, 100 amps continuous dual. Again, that's a little less than what my motors might require. Again, for the same reasons that I rejected the previous one, I did not go with this option either. I consider this is the VESC ESC 6.6, so this is the latest version of the VESC, by my understanding at least, priced at $219. And this option actually looks pretty good. So if we look at the specs on this one, they give you a lot of nice information with this one. So dual ESC can reach continuous 200 amps big current. That is giving me enough current to handle, my potential 80 amps per motor. This one looks pretty ideal, and I almost went with this option. The only thing that made me decide against this one was something very subtle. If you look at the size of this unit, it's 128 millimeters by 91 millimeters by 21 millimeters. It's a bigger unit than what I was hoping to find. I did not think I would have any other options until I found this next option. Again, this one is a dual FSESC 6.6. This one I got from HGL Tech. It's priced at $229, so it's a little bit more expensive. But the big deal about this one is check out the dimensions on this. 81 millimeters by 77 millimeters by 20 millimeters. So significantly smaller than the previous one for a little bit higher price. But this is what I ended up buying. And so far, this has worked out just great. So let me show you that. So this is the box that I put my VESC in. As you can see, it's quite small. It's got these nice latches on the side. And I'll put a link to this box in my description, so you can get that. I think the VESC sits in the box nicely. And there is my VESC. As you can see, I drilled some holes in this box so that the phase wires can come out and meet the motors in the back. And then I drilled a couple of holes in the side here for the battery cables, hooking up to this XT90 connection. And I know it's ugly, but I have the battery cable just going above my foot and going right into the battery box. On the VESC itself, you can see this is the transmitter for my remote right here. I just plugged it right into the little connector right there on the VESC. This is the Bluetooth connection. Now, my Bluetooth doesn't actually work properly because none of this stuff comes with directions. I'm not sure why it's not working. I believe I have it connected up properly. When I turn on my Bluetooth app, it goes from searching for device to attempting to connect to the device, and it never does make a connection. The instructions seem to imply that that means that I have it configured wrong, but I can't figure out exactly what that is. So if any of you out there are experienced with setting up the Bluetooth connection, setting up the app that's associated with that, if you could send me a comment or a link to some instructions, that would be fantastic. Now, when I turn my VESC on, so when I turn my board on, you can see all of the pretty lights come on the VESC, and you see these ports right here are used for programming the VESC with the computer. Programming with the VESC tool, I'm not going to go through that. I'm definitely not an expert on how to use it. However, put a link to the description that I got for using that tool that came from Pavel Garmas, another YouTuber who did a great job of showing that. I like this particular box because it has the foam in it, so of course I took the foam out to drill all the holes, but then after I put everything in there, I just reinserted the foam, and it just provides a nice cushion for my VESC. So everything fits in there nicely. Pretty happy about how it turned out. Oh, one other thing I wanted to discuss. I said in a previous video, hold on, let me turn this around. I had mentioned in a previous video that I recommended doing the minor adjustments to these mounts by loosening up the screw and inching them over and then tightening them up. In retrospect, I think that was bad advice. These mounts should tighten onto the truck so tight that they become very difficult to move. And that's good. That's a good thing. Instead of moving the mount to make minor adjustments to get this to come out right, what you can do instead is buy a good supply of extra speed rings and spacers. And then, before adding a particular wheel on, add on enough spacers or speed rings, as necessary to make this wheel come out far enough so that this distance between the belt and the motor is just right. So that's what I did with this build. With these mounts have not budged even a little bit. I'm extremely happy with the performance of these mounts. You can see that I have a very close tolerance between, the edge of the wheel and that belt, and it hasn't moved even a little bit. So I'm very happy with that. This setup, it feels very solid. It's very comfortable to ride. I don't get any strange wheel wobbles or anything that feels unnatural or like my belt is slipping and anything of that nature. So very happy with this setup. Use the speed rings for those little minor adjustments to get this fit just right. And I highly recommend these mounts over the premium mounts that I originally purchased. So with that said, that concludes what I wanted to say about my VESC. I'm very happy with my VESC. Again, it's working out quite well. I'll end this video with some clips of me riding, and I'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye. Go for a ride.